Thank you to all of you for being here this afternoon. I hope it's been a great event for you so far. I wanted to let you know that we are so inspired and motivated by each and every one of you. As Doug mentioned, you're the reason we do what we do. And that's because every day you're innovating and you're experimenting to improve the sales experience for your teams and for your customers. I'm excited to be able to share a video with you this afternoon of one of our customers who does this in such a beautiful way. Televerde is a company that provides sales and marketing services to their clients by employing incarcerated women. They're helping these women to develop skills and to build their careers. What you may not know is that the national average for return rates to prison are over 68% in the US. Well, not for the Televerde alums. The women who have worked at Televerde, return rates to prison are staggeringly low at just 6%. Clearly, their approach is working. At LinkedIn, we believe that creating economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce is an incredibly important mission that we're on. And so it's so inspiring to see one of our customers that's doing this and having a tremendous impact. So I'm honored to be able to share their story with you. Let's take a look.
I thought I knew where my life was going at one point in time. I was in art school and things took a left turn. I ended up making some bad choices and I really lost myself. I actually ended up spending 4 years in prison. When I was in prison, my father got sick and I realized that time's precious, so I'm gonna make the most of it. Sales has given me an opportunity to recreate my identity. It's really helped me rebuild my life, and Televerde was my opportunity.
People make mistakes, and when I joined Televerde in 1995, I felt that this was an opportunity to do something very different, to not only do a business focused on marketing and sales, but do a business that would actually give back to the community. We employ women who are incarcerated and not only help them enable our customers to be successful in the market, but help them return to the real world and support their families. The national average for the return to prison is 68%. The Televerde number is 6.1%, and that's over 23 years.
It's the hope and the actual belief that what they're doing today can lead to a meaningful and rewarding career doing something that they really love. We literally have people in every single department at every level of the organization who started with us on the inside.
I never saw myself continuing in sales originally, even when I first started, but I've fallen in love. It's so much more than just getting a check signed. It's really about engaging and being creative in how you engage and building relationships with people. Sales Navigator is incredible. I use LinkedIn constantly to build out my lead list and to engage in new levels and share content with my customers and be able to identify who the right person is and how do I get in front of that person. I don't really know how I would do my job successfully without it today.
Having access to information about the different companies that they've worked for or schools that they went to, it really helps you understand and have a meaningful conversation with the prospect.
I'm amazed at the transformation that I've taken as part of this career. Today I see myself with worth. I know that I'm more than my mistakes. I'm more than a number. My name means something. It holds integrity to myself, to my friendships, to my customers, and to my colleagues.
I'm so moved by what Televerde is doing, and we're all incredibly honored to have the CEO of Televerde here with us in the audience today. So Jim Hooker, would you please stand up so we can acknowledge and appreciate the incredible work you're doing. So that's a pretty incredible story. I also want to let you know that each and every one of you is a real sales hero as well. And we want to hear your story. But before we get to that, I'd like to ask my panelists to come up and join me on stage. Come on up. And as they're getting situated, I would love to ask you to think about, why did you get into sales to begin with? We're monitoring the hashtag #RealSales, and we'd like to invite you to tweet your story. To give you a little extra encouragement, to make it a little bit more interesting, we're going to be giving away an Apple Watch before the event is over today for the top tweet. So take a few minutes to start to think about, what's your story? How are you a real sales hero? And why did you get into sales to begin with? Don't do it all at once. Feel free. You can do it now or over the next little bit. But we'd love to have some of those stories, and I'd love to reward one of you with a nice shiny new watch today. So as you're thinking or tweeting, I also want to give a little context for our panel discussion this afternoon. We're going to do a bit of a lightning round panel discussion, and we're going to be talking, of course, about the future of sales. We know, of course, that the world of B2B sales is an ever-changing landscape, and we continually discuss and talk about the evolving scope of marketing and, of course, the way that sales is changing every day. And when you think about the changes in technology with the rapid advancement in automation and AI, there's no question that our profession is going through rapid changes. And so the question is, should we be scared? Or, as many of you shared earlier, it looks like we're pretty bullish on the opportunity. I'm excited to have a discussion this afternoon with our panelists to hear their perspectives on where are we going and how should we be thinking about it. And most interestingly, we've asked them to think about, what's the biggest, boldest prediction you have for where we're going? So with that, I'd love to get started. And if I could ask you, let's just go in order. If I could ask you to start off with your name, your role, the company that you work with, and if you could share one thing that's not on your LinkedIn profile.
Okay. My name is Amy Slater, and I work for a pretty great gal. Anyways, her name is Amy Slater, and it's Amy Slater Consulting. I started my own business at the end of last year, having had a career in sales with companies like Salesforce.com, Cisco, and most recently TiVo. And unless you were at the Sales Connect last year, you probably don't know what I will tell that isn't on my LinkedIn profile, and that is about 5 years ago, I decided to let out my inner rock star. I always liked karaoke. So I went online and I found a rock and roll fantasy camp. And I went to Dallas, Texas, and I went to a camp to learn a little bit about rock and roll. And I sang on stage at the House of Blues, so that's my little known fact.
Awesome. I wish we had that video.
I've destroyed that, so. I don't have a CD player anymore, so.
Great, Dave, you want to go next?
So my name's Dave Anderson. I'm from Australia, as you can tell. I've been in the US for about all of 4 weeks. I head marketing, not sales. So I'm the devil on the panel. And for a company called Dynatrace, we monitor some of the world's leading applications and cloud environments. And what's not on my LinkedIn profile? Maybe music as well. I'm a musician and I taught myself to code. Someone asked me today, are you technical? And I said, yeah, I taught myself to code because I predicted the downfall of MySpace. And whilst all the musicians were building on MySpace, I built my own website and then built a web business out of it. And that's basically how I got myself to be technical. That's not on my LinkedIn profile because I did it part-time whilst I was working at a large IT provider. But they'll be renamed nameless, even though you can now look up my LinkedIn profile and find out who it is.
Great.
I'm Deb Fritz. I head up our global sales operations team at Acxiom. The thing that is not on my LinkedIn profile is not artistic, but about 10 years ago, I took part in a charity event to race 100 kilometers or 60 miles in 24 hours. I learned a lot about willpower and now how not to lose your mind, and I also wound up on crutches for 3 months afterwards.
For a good cause, though. Great, and Shane.
And hi, I'm Shane Evans. I lead enterprise sales for Qualtrics. We're an enterprise experience management company. And one thing not on my LinkedIn profile, I'm the father of 4, 2 girls, 2 boys. About 3 nights ago, my 15-year-old daughter summoned me to her room at 12:30 at night via text to recount to me the experience she had in kissing her first boy. So I'm very hopeful that very soon we're going to have AI for parenting, because I could use some help these next few years.
Wow. That's great. So before we look ahead, I'd love for you each to look back and to share your thoughts on some of the changes that you've seen in sales over the last 10 years and the impact that it's had on your teams. Shane, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I would say that the biggest change we've seen is, you saw earlier the stat about 5.4 tools that are needed from a sales rep perspective. It's just being able to manage and navigate all of the complexity in sales and doing that effectively and seamlessly. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge that we deal with today in our team, is making sure that everyone knows how to easily navigate and command all the different tools that are available.
Thanks.
What I think has changed a tremendous amount since I started selling long distance about 25 years ago is that the customer seems so much more knowledgeable than the salesperson could ever be. And so I've read a number of statistics that say somewhere in the order of about 60 to 80% of the decision is already made before that salesperson walks in the door. So you're kind of at a disadvantage when you walk in as a seller, just because your customer is so well informed.
And how have your teams had to adapt to that?
So, I mean, essentially, you have to really stay on top of it and do your research and do your homework, and then you actually have to find another way to differentiate yourself by providing inspiration and solutions. I was speaking with Jim Steele, who I know a number of you know him, and we were just talking earlier this afternoon about that bit of inspiration. You know, you want to inspire your customers, not just regurgitate product information.
That's exactly what I found, actually. So, I mean, I'm in the world of software. People buy software, so they evaluate software before they talk to anyone in sales. And the thing that's changed for me is that sales are now actually starting to listen. They'll listen to marketing as well, but they're also listening to the customers. So they've grown some ears. And, you know, whilst we talked about social selling so long ago, marketing was probably at the forefront because we were trying to find new avenues to get to the customer and be personalized. I think now the mass stream of sales now really start to get it. And for us, it was really about, we had to show them that it worked. So when we first started using Sales Navigator, it was marketing that started with it. And we said, watch this, we're going to run this event and we're going to show you how many net new prospects we can get to that event. And they all sat there and went, when the people all turned up for the event, they went, wow. Okay, it works. And so then they were all on board and we had to get them to practice what they preach. Then they had to learn from themselves. Once the sales rep learned how to do it, then it just kept going from there. So I think sales, yeah, it's just learning and keeping up with what's happening.
From operations perspective, I go back 10 years, I think we got the majority of our market and client signals from our sales reps, and consequently and consistently, our sales reps would say we're spending too much of our time on internal cycles and internal processes and forecast reconciliations. And I think today we get the majority of our signals now from AI and predictive analytics. And what that has enabled me to appreciate is we're beginning to pivot the time I spend face-to-face with our sales reps to get more strategic insights into accounts and feedback from the coalface on our products. And I'm really appreciating that change.
Yeah, great. And so when you think about current day, what are some of the challenges that we haven't touched on that some of these changes have created for your teams?
I would say I think the volume of information and the amount of data that is out there and not knowing, you know, how to handle all of that information. Of course, there's AI and there's all the tools that we talked about, but I'd say that's a really big challenge. And then, as Dave was talking about, really that merging between sales and marketing, I know that people are paying attention, and you're seeing more and more convergence, as was spoken about earlier. Jonathan talked about that, is the convergence of sales and marketing, because customers are getting hit all the time, you know, by marketing campaigns, by emails that Jeff was talking about. I've had a few of those experiences, and really, you know, the salespeople are really needing to figure out, how do I establish a relationship when my customer doesn't really know that they want one?
Yeah, I think that the data was a really good one. Like the demo we got before that shows like the deal book, I think, and it had all the different personas and people. I took one look at that from a marketing perspective and just went for marketing attribution. That's absolutely gold for me, because when sales close an opportunity, if we don't have the right marketing attribution in place and we're using Salesforce, of course, what do they put in? Oh, cold call was where that lead came from and that opportunity. Like, yeah, of course it was. The guy's been to 12 events, webinars, nurture, the whole lot. So,
Spoken for the marketing guy.
we generate the bulk of the pipeline. No one believes us. But just wait till we get the attribution reporting resolved. So once the data's there, and data, I say data, I think that makes sense in this country, not data. Once that's resolved, then we can get a better idea of like how together we can target. So like what LinkedIn's doing is actually really cool in terms of helping us with that information to make our lives easier to personalize and make it easier for the sales as well. So.
Outside of efficiency, for me, is how do we most effectively harness this explosion of new data points and signals in the market? I still feel like we're chained down by the manual effort it takes to collate and curate all those signals from all the different sources and effectively get them in front of our salespeople in a way that can aid them at that point of engagement.
Should work with marketing more.
Well, Dave, I'm not going to touch attribution. We're going to leave that one alone for now. For us, the big struggle today is differentiation. And I think with technology, once a competitor comes out with something, it's replicated so quickly. And we do win-loss reviews, and as we talk to companies that make decisions, it's amazing how all the different presentations from potential vendors just bleed together. And it's really hard for them to distinguish between the differences in the market. And so for us today, it's really trying to effectively communicate what's unique about our value proposition and how we can uniquely help the company that we're trying to partner with. And that's endless. It's every week, that's what we're continuing to push ourselves on, is to distill that messaging down for each specific client.
And have you guys believe it too. That's the thing, when you come with messaging and marketing says this is the message and sales don't believe it, it just doesn't work. So it has to be from everyone that you all believe that that's our differentiation, and that's when it works.
Yeah, and Gina, I was curious, is that something that you are driving centrally, or are you relying on the reps to figure out the differentiation and communicate that to clients?
Yeah, to Dave's point, we have a centralized team that puts together a standard, and then it's up to each rep to figure out for the specific customer how that plays out for them in their business and how it relates to all the existing tools and objectives and current strategies that they're driving to. And so it's knowing the nuances and how to adjust those on the fly.
Mm-hmm. I'd just like to add one aspect of differentiation is also the individuals that are selling, right? That they have to differentiate themselves, not just try to differentiate the solution and the product, but their approach. They might have to be a little bit different in their approach to sales.
Great. And for my final question, I'd love for you each to look into your crystal balls, and let's look, say, 10 or 15 years into the future. What is your biggest, boldest prediction for where we're going? And would love to know what role, if any, you see LinkedIn playing. And Amy, I think we're starting with you.
Yeah, so I like to go back to the future when we talk about the future. And since I've been selling for a long time, I guess I already gave it away, for over 25 years, I go back to the future when I think about relationships and the value of a relationship. And when I went over to the other side of the table and was leading global sales operations, and I was a customer, and like Jeff said, I could count on one hand the number of people that tried to establish, salespeople, a relationship with me. They were very caught up in the transaction of a solution sale. And so when I say go back to the future, it's go back to the time when relationships mattered, and with all of the technology and all of the great things, certainly that LinkedIn is doing, and I love that snap thing. It's going to be my new phrase, I think. Salespeople will now have capacity in their day to actually spend more time with those relationships. 25 years ago, you were going through papers and cutting things out and putting them on, file cards and having to do, that was your CRM. But today, salespeople, and in the future, 10 to 15 years from now, they're going to have so much information at their fingertips. It's going to be automated. No more manual input into your CRM and all of those things. But that relationship is really where we need to go back to, and that point of differentiation.
So from my perspective, so everyone in sales will be working for marketing. Not really. I think actually about 3 years ago I did a presentation at LinkedIn and I called it marker sales. I said that there's going to be this convergence between the two because, again, from like our perspective and what's happening in our business is, you know, we sell our software through AWS or Azure or wherever, and it actually changes the relationship of sales. And we don't really, the inside sales function are kind of sitting around because the customer's already bought. And then really what it is for the sales to go in is they're not just getting cold leads through anymore, they're actually getting paying customers. And it's their job then to understand that customer, try and make sure that they see value in the product, can do the differentiation, and then try and upsell them to either other features or make sure they've got value in it. So yeah, I think my perspective is both of the teams are going to need to really work together because there's so much data going around that, you know, we supply to them like a resource library, quarterly newsletters, or even less than quarterly, bi-weekly kind of newsletters and advocacy platforms and just information to them continually and help everyone understand like how to make use of it, how to personalize content, how to write the right sort of content. So yeah, my prediction isn't sales will never go away, obviously, because we need people to close deals. But I just think it's just going to be that closer alignment between sales and marketing and make better use of data and be more personal. And the other big prediction is sales will get maybe more money to spend on drinks and events and those sort of things in order to entertain, which would be nice instead of taking it out of my budget.
Go ahead, Deb.
For me, it's about unlocking our minds. And I think today, we all had a dial on our foreheads on how much of our time and mind power we spend on transactional information or following the wrong sales leads or the wrong prospect. And if we're in a place where all that information is, we can navigate it and we can activate it, then we free ourselves up through AI or predictive analytics to focus on the human element. And in that human element, the relationship is king. It's not replaced. And then in that world, then we are collating and we're ideating on solving the evolving challenges and creating the opportunities that we'll need to succeed in the integrated world of the future.
Thanks.
So I love LinkedIn Recruiter, by the way. I use it nonstop trying to find talent. And one of the things that we're seeing right now is this need for what I'll call a hybrid individual. So my image is, for those of you that know the movie Napoleon Dynamite, it's a liger. It's a mix between a tiger and a lion. If you haven't seen the movie, it's not going to make any sense. But the point is, we're starting to already see that individuals have to have security expertise. They need to have technical sales knowledge. They need to be able to know how to navigate very challenging legal conversations. That's not anything that AI can predict. And so it's going to require individuals that have a very unique skill set. It's not just about sales anymore. They've got to be able to raise the bar and be able to wear multiple hats to be effective. And we're already seeing the top performers on our teams are the ones that can navigate all these different conversations. And I think that the technical requirements are going to continue to go up. And so the salesman of old is not going to be around if they don't continue to hone their skill and their craft and really perfect those different hats to be effective in the sales process.
And Jen, are you starting to hire for a different profile, or are you taking the existing folks and training them? How are you approaching that?
So at Qualtrics, it's a very academic sell. We get asked all sorts of philosophical questions. We got to come back, what should the sample size be? What scale should we use on this question on the survey? We are looking for not just sales prowess and the hunter mentality, but a real technical aptitude and a willingness to learn that new skill set that they're going to need to be effective.
Great. So it's so interesting as we think about all of the innovation and the technological advances that two of the bold predictions are that we're going to need to rely on the age-old relationship building skills more than ever, and thinking about a skill set and knowledge acquisition. So some of the softer skills that are going to become, at least in your crystal balls, the most important attributes as we continue this evolution of our profession. Well, thank you so much to all of you for spending some time and some of your great perspectives on where we're going. And please join me in giving a round of applause. Thank you.